Hello everyone and welcome back. So after the outcry of Nigerians as well as the world and the international embarrassment, yesterday Tinubu gave directive to release the detained minors that they charged for treason. So this is the breaking news today. Nigeria Federal High Court strike out treason charges against 119 end bad governance protesters. So ever since this breaking news came out, Nigerians have been reacting, and this is what Aisha Yusuf said. This shows how pocketed the judiciary is. They couldn't strike out the case on their own until the powers that bestowed them. This is what everyone is saying right now, that indeed Nigeria judiciary has been pocketed. And some are saying that it's only people that charge those children for treason that have the power to withdraw the case. So which means Tinubu and co are aware of the detained minors. So what are they even saying? That they're going to, carry out investigation to fish out those people that detained and charge these children for treason. Not only that, let me show you guys what Shettima said yesterday. Nigeria Vice President Shettima to hand over malnourished minors detained for 3 months to their respective governors at elaborate ceremony in Abuja Tuesday. My people, they want to use this one again to siphon Nigerian money. Which one is party? Because you release the minors that you detain for 3 months plus. Like these people supposed to hide their faces in shame. Which kind of show of shame is this one, my people? What they're supposed to be talking about right now is how to compensate these children and also rehabilitate them so that they can go back to school, not to be doing all one big party. Like, I don't know who is advising these people, honestly. Let me allow you guys so that I can listen and hear what Rufai as well as Dr. Abad said concerning this matter as well.
Following public outcry, President Bola Tinubu has directed Nigeria's Attorney General to ensure the immediate release of all minors arrested during the recent End Bad Governance protests in August, while also overseeing an investigation into any misconduct by law enforcement officials involved in their arrests. The decision comes after disturbing scenes of malnourished young Nigerians fainting in court last week sparked outrage among politicians and civil society groups. In a briefing with State House correspondents, Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris highlighted the president's commitment to democracy and the rule of law. As part of the directives, an administrative committee led by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction will examine the minors' arrest, detention, treatment, and release.
The president has directed that these children, these minors, be released immediately. This is, of course, without prejudice to whatever legal processes there are. Of course, if you look at this issue, there is the legal side of it, but there is also the human angle, the humanitarian side of it. Mr. President has directed that whatever the circumstances are, let the minors be released. They can, of course, continue whatever process there are, if indeed there are, as stipulated by our laws. But the minors, the president has directed that all of them be released. To recap, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs has been directed by the president to ensure that they have safe return and reunion to their family members. And like I said earlier, if there are any infractions being committed by any law enforcement officer or any official of government, a disciplinary action will be taken against such person.
Well, this is a very welcome development, and we look forward to seeing them being reunited with their families. Rufai, your take on this?
A part of me is saying kudos to President Tinubu this morning. A part of me is also saying knocks to President Tinubu. Kudos. Why am I saying kudos? It's a good one. He reacted to public outcry. But the part of me that is saying knocks is saying, didn't he know about this in the first place? Because if he didn't know that they had kept minors in incarceration all this while, then I'm more scared for this country. if it was after the public show of shame that the rights of minors were violated and the public outcry, that he remembered and said, oh, the shame and the embarrassment is too much. Go and let them go. Then I'm more scared for this country. If we didn't know that they had kept them in incarceration for over 3 months. With that protest, so what becomes the lot of those that were even not killed by the security force, because he says we should investigate them? And in his investigation, is he going to have some very strong words with the IGP or the police spokesperson that said that this fainting spell by the minors was a scam? Probably, I'm sure they thought that the minors faked the fainting spell in a replica of Professor Ponde's fainting spell. Is that the case in Nigeria? So what kind of country are we really building? Dr. Bati reeled out the child rights law. These kids should even be in school in the first place, but they are a true representation of the fact that a country fails its people. Nigeria failed these children. And it is after 3 months that you've blighted their memory with this very inglorious event that you expect them to be happy and say, Kumbaya, our daddy remembered us for good. And he said they should let us go. We are not ready. And I keep saying that. When we are ready, we will see that we are ready. Kudos also to the president for that investigation. Let's see what will come out of it. We know the culprits in this system. We know the persons that were screaming for the heads of these young people. We know the persons and the police authority that said all sorts about these young people. We'll wait and see if they'll be brought to book. But I'll be surprised if anything happens. So for me, it's double-edged. Kudos and knocks for the president.
Okay, the embarrassment was so large that the Nigerian president and the federal government of Nigeria had to save his face. Inibe Effiong was on this program yesterday, and he made the point that even the international media and the international community, including investors, were beginning to ask what was going on in Nigeria, a situation where children were being accused of trying to overthrow the government of the day. He correctly observed that this was a major embarrassment. And in the view of the UBEC Act, Section 3 thereof, these are children who are supposed to be in school in a country that has over 15 million children out of school. So what the government of the day has tried to do is to save face. And President Tinubu has now directed the Attorney General of the Federation, well, in his capacity, I guess, also as Minister of Justice, to go and ensure that the minors are released. Now, the president declaring this is not the end of the matter. Yesterday, we said that the Attorney General of the Federation, one of those few ministers identified, in fact, the only minister that is expressly identified in the Constitution, under Section 174 and Section 211, has to take the consequential step to enter a nolle prosequi, because it's only the Attorney General of the Federation that they can discontinue any matter. It's not the president. The Attorney General will have to act. How soon will the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice act? That's one. Two, the Minister of Information said the minors have been asked to go. A total of 130 persons were detained under, conditions that we said, violated their fundamental human rights. Now, if those 29 children, minors, if they are released, what happens next to the remaining 101 persons? Because if you look at the police prosecutor's charge sheet, what they have in the proof of evidence, as has been provided by Femi Falana, SAN, who is doing a yeoman's job of drawing attention to important issues in this polity, where the rule of law is being violated. Femi Falana, has pointed out that we should look at the proof of evidence. They are going to charge people for treasonable felony for 76 Russian flags. 76 Russian flags. So this is what these guys are going to take to court. Fire extinguishers. About 2 or 3 fire extinguishers. And then statements purportedly made. Okay, in which sensible country does anybody overthrow a government with 76 Russian flags? and with the fire extinguishers. So the whole thing is so ridiculous. And the ludicrousness of it must have been very obvious to the president and the federal government after the fact. However, the president says there should be an investigation, people should be penalized. The first thing they should do is to sack their prosecutor or whatever prosecutors are involved. Was it not the federal government prosecutor who was quoted as saying all the minors are adults, that in fact some of them are married? Now the same federal government is telling us that the prosecutor in this matter is a liar. And Muyiwa Adejobi, the police PRO, he said, oh, it's only when you are below 7 years that you don't go to, you don't get charged. If you are above 13, you can be charged and all of that. He himself was confusing the Child Rights Act with the Children and Young Persons Act. Now, it's a lot of embarrassment here and there. So what I'm saying is that the federal government of Nigeria, President Tinubu personally, should make sure that all those people who violated basic ethical conduct, that's the principal thing about the prosecutorial process. Prosecutors are supposed to conduct themselves as persons who want to ensure justice in the temple of justice for society and even for the accused person. You can't have prosecutors who come to court and they are lying and they are behaving as if they are members of a political party or they have a personal issue with the accused persons. So it's very embarrassing from every front. The prosecutors, the lawyers involved, and even many of the parties involved. And even the correctional service, putting minors in difficult situations as if these correctional service people, they are just a bunch of illiterates that have been given important positions. This was how the other day they were disturbing us, giving us pressure to come and be doing analysis that should not ordinarily arise when they were talking about, infractions in correctional service centers and all of that. Now, a serious country doesn't deal with such minutiae. If you have responsible persons, if you have round pegs in round holes, President Tinubu should go beyond all of this to begin to think of a major overhaul of personnel. The civil service, the public service in other countries constitute the engine room. This our own engine here is already making some sound. So I hope the engine will not knock very soon. It's embarrassing.
Absolutely. I want to take off from your point that this is after the fact. But what this has done is it has highlighted some very deep systemic issues that we have that have become normal. So the outrage is what it takes to make our system in place, our administration, our leaders realize that some of the things that have been normalized are completely abnormal and unacceptable. One of the major things that has become a talking point here is the exploitation of minors as political tools. This is something that we see consistently. We see it during elections. We've seen young people being used as political thugs. They're used to go and be instruments of violence to disrupt the electoral process. We've seen young people queue up to vote, minors. We've seen them hold fake IDs, fake identities, giving them false birth dates so that they can partake in all these activities. Now we are seeing them being used to carry flags. I'm sure most of these young people who are supposed to be in school clearly were not in school, may not even be able to point out what country that flag belonged to that they were carrying. They were just being used as political tools. So there's a conversation to be had about how we have normalized manipulating and exploiting our young people in this country to meet political ends. Having said that, there's now the issue of attempting so vehemently to criminalize protests. Protest is a civic right of every single citizen of a democratic country. But this attempt we saw as there was a lead up to the End Bad Governance protest, how there was so much pushback against the protest. And that there were so many threats that, it will be hijacked, it will be hijacked. And then, of course, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, of course, the conversation is who hijacked it? What we see are young people detained for months on end without being fed, without being properly clothed, without being properly taken care of. Who hijacked the protest? That conversation is not happening. We should go and look for those people who sent, because we know that these young people did not run into the streets of their own accord. Ask them what they were protesting for. They are hungry. They don't, what would they know about treason? So we sincerely do hope that there is enough publicity around this investigation, and we'll keep accountability. And as Dr. Abati said, heads must roll, because this is not a small issue. And a precedent must be set that our minors, our young people who are the future of this nation, the future of this continent, belong in school. They should be in school, not on the streets protesting. They should be getting a firm foundation to become tomorrow's leaders and to become productive members of society. What will these young people become? Now, another issue is that, yes, they said the Humanitarian Ministry and Poverty Alleviation Ministry is going to tend to these children and so forth. Rufai always talks about the ashwebi of calamity. We don't want to see pictures of these young people being dressed in ashwebi, being reunited with their families, suddenly with Vaseline and shiny faces and so forth. We're not looking for the optics and the publicity stunts. We're looking for the real work that needs to be done with regards to the judicial system. They say justice delayed is justice denied. What is the traumatic impact of what these children have been through in the past 97 days? We've heard so many stories that are coming out. Some are saying that they were blindfolded as they were moved from one facility to another facility. Their parents didn't even know where they were. We already know the statistics. We don't even need statistics to see how underfed they were, how unkempt they were. So what are we doing with regards to addressing that trauma? Because these are the same children who will now be radicalized tomorrow, and we'll ask ourselves, where is banditry and terrorism coming from? So after all is said and done, it's not enough to be reactionary. There are some bold reforms, bold changes, bold moves that need to be made to sanitize the political space from the exploitation of minors. It's not on, it's not fair, it's inhumane, and it's certainly undemocratic.
Welcome to Jammer Seniors TV.